Satish, how are you doing today? All good?
Good morning, Ashutosh. All is well. Wonderful day. Happy Friday to you.
Happy Friday as well to you, and I'm so glad to see you. I'll shortly introduce you to everyone. Uh, you know, Many thanks for joining this. It's a amazing topic we have picked up today. I've been talking to a lot of people. They've been asking about how does business and HR excellence go together, though it's not something which is uncommon in the world. But in the new era, it's suddenly become very uncommon and uncertain. So it'll be interesting debate and conversation we have today with everyone.
Sure. Looking forward to it.
That's great. That's great. So good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, wherever everyone is, different parts of the world, and those who are watching it now or later. We're back with another episode of the Seintiv Talk. As you know, the Seintiv Talk is a show which actually focuses on topics which can be controversial, but require to be opened up in a professional way in a conversation with leaders. My name is Ashutosh Sinha. For those who don't know me, I've come with 32 years of background across various organizations in the Big Four and corporate across Middle East, US, and India. And I'm the managing partner for Seintiv in Dubai, based out of here. And we are a firm which focuses on leadership development and human capital strategies for organization and technology. Plus, we obviously are focused on something very important, which is executive search. So today's show, I'm very, very pleased and proud that we could get someone to be part of it as a guest, a speaker today, Satish Viswanathan. Satish is someone who is a friend in a way because we have known each other for a bit, but also more importantly, Satish is a leader of stature. He has worked across various multitude of organizations and places as a strategist and as an HR guy both. In very simple words, if I were to tell you that what Satish is, and I'm going to try to read a little bit of his bio, but not the full bio, is he's a senior strategy, transformation, and human capital leader with 25 years plus of experience. Don't go by his, looks of wisdom is much more. And across Middle East and India, he's worked across Emaar, Emirates Nuclear Energy Corporation, Dubai World, Commercial World Bank of Dubai, and Abu Dhabi government in various capacities. He's led enterprise-wide strategy, performance management, HR, a strategy guy who moved into being a HR head or a CHRO and back into being strategy. So it's amazing to see what he's done in his career. Classic example of what I say of leaders evolving the career. I talk that in my shows all often, that it's important for a leader to have many careers in the career, and Satish is the epitome of that example. His work has consistently delivered measurable results and outcomes in profitability and governance and transformation. And I have to say he's one of the best CXO advisors I've seen in the region during my multiple interactions with him. So Satish, not enough words for you, but very warm welcome to the Seintiv Talk today.
Thank you, Ashutosh. First of all, good morning, afternoon, or evening, whichever part of the world you're all in. Very kind of you to have me in this show. I really look forward to it and exchange whatever I have learned over the course of my career and continue to learn. And this particular topic, which is HR excellence and business excellence, is very close to my heart, particularly because I have consciously evolved along these lines. So I've made sure that I'm internal advisor, consultant to any company that I work for, not the kind who run away after implementation, but make sure that people excellence and business excellence are always aligned. Looking forward to it. Thank you so much.
You touched upon a very interesting thing, Satish, and before I get into a serious debate and questions here, I have to tell you that something touched me when you said that you're like an internal advisor in your roles also to your leaders and business. And that's something, I don't know if you realize, but you said something really good. And over the years, I've told my teams and even my clients and people I work with, a coach, that it's a very important not to look yourself, whether you are HR and marketing and sales and business and P&L, whatever you're doing, not look at yourself as your job, but also see how can you be that internal advisor to the organization, 𝐓𝐡𝐞 and the board. And when you wear that hat, the strategic purpose and the why you're working for that organization and the market changes completely. So it's amazing that you put it that way. I would hope people would take note of that introduction, especially in the way you put it there. I have some interesting questions up today, and this is going to be not very long. We're trying to keep it 30, 40 minutes because as neuroscience says, attention spans are low and people's time is increasingly low. But being a nice Friday, I'm hoping people can take out some time and listen to this interesting conversation and debate. And of course, we look forward to your questions as well. So please do leave your questions on the chat below, your thoughts, your questions and pings, and my team will pop it up here and we'll pick it up from there. All right. So let's get started. So, one question I have for you, Satish, and this is not rapid fire, so take your time to respond to it, but do business excellence and HR, this is a leader who works in the space of business, actually, not HR, has sent this to us in our initial precursor when he put the message out, the show is coming up. So do business excellence and HR excellence truly go hand in hand? Or can one exist without the other? In the future of work, which becomes a stronger driver? So that's an interesting question, because I think where this person is coming on, and I've seen this in my experience as well, that sometimes business excellence goes in one trajectory and HR excellence goes on other trajectory. And it's not two rails which kind of go very parallel, sometimes not intersecting each other. So what's your thought?
I mean, it's a really thought-provoking questions for sure, Ashutosh. I think, in my opinion, these are not two separate conversations. I don't think these should be decoupled or divorced from each other. And the moment you kind of decouple the HR excellence from business excellence, I think it leads to a failure. Just to give you an example, in my previous role, I had undertaken an HR transformation exercise. If I had, made it an HR project, then it would have remained within the realms of HR, the NRC, and probably the CEO. But I made sure that each of the outcomes of these HR projects within the transformation program are actually aligned to the business outcomes. Ultimately, you can implement all these initiatives, but if the outcomes are not achieved, then it doesn't really help. And business leaders today want to see how HR is actually contributing to business outcomes. We are no longer an enabler. We are the engine behind the success of an organization. And HR, I would rightly say that needs a seat in the table where the decisions are made. So in my opinion, it is not different. One enables the other. And I can quote many examples. Look at the balanced scorecard approach, which has been time tested. It clearly says if your people are competent and capable, they can work on your processes efficiently and effectively, delivering on customer outcomes. And ultimately, if customer outcomes are met, your financial outcomes are met, or your whatever financial outcomes you have envisaged for. Therefore, to me, it's plain and simple. These are not two different conversations, but something which is intertwined, and one leads to the other. It's a causality and an outcome.
Very true. And you said it right that the relationship is amazing there, the way you put it there, right? Because it is actually about making sure that there's a outcome ultimately which is kept in mind. And even if it requires intersection at multiple places to make that outcome happen, it has to go hand in hand. You can't separate these two. One example I remember, interesting story there, Satish, is that this client I was advising where there's a leader who was managing business. And for many years, he was trying to drive this expectation with his promoters that in the traditional sense, the people function was seen more like an admin and control function than actually a business function. And he was trying it very hard for the promoters to understand that it has to go hand in hand, because now they're trying to grow 3x, right, for multiple reasons. And to go 3x, it cannot be with a sales driver only, so or cost driver only, one of the two things. And that's where he was finding a lot of headwinds. But I think over time, when he was able to explain how the human capital of the organization actually is adding to the focus and the growth of the business, in terms of numbers, sometimes it actually helps. So instead of having a cost per people conversation or revenue per person conversation, it's also important to have an outcome conversation, which I call as a value unit conversation. That what value units is every person being measured in, from an outcome which they're driving for the organization. Because sometimes when we look for, in myopic theories, just the immediate result, they look at only in commercial terms. They forget to see it in 3-year terms or 18 months term or 6-month terms, the change it might bring to the organization. What are your thoughts on that, just from a conversation standpoint? Do you agree with me? Do you think because I'm seeing a lot of that happening in a few organizations?
No, absolutely. I totally agree with you on this. In fact, when you list out, in my previous role, list out each of the HR initiatives or projects. For example, workforce planning, streamlining that. If you're not able to explain the business outcome in terms of how productivity is improving, the business leaders are not going to listen to you. Or the same matter, you want to revamp the total rewards, be it fixed, the short term, the long term. If you're not tying it to outcomes, it's not going to work. For example, the sales incentives, you're revamping it. How is it going to impact the sales revenue? Or how is it going to impact the leasing revenue? Or how it's going to reduce the cost? Similarly, when it comes to succession planning, if you're not going to link it to actually business continuity or resilience, people are not going to buy. So each of these initiatives are actually engines that actually deliver business outcomes. You have to link it to EBITDA as much as possible.
Beautiful. Love that. I think this is the crux of it, that linking even a succession planning, like you said, a simple but important thing like that, can be very complex if not linked to the outcome and the EBITDA in that sense. So thank you so much for that. There's one more question I have here, is there really a shortcut to, I'm smiling at this because I get that often as well, I'm sure you get, is there really a shortcut to achieving HR excellence? Or is it inherent as a long-term capability build? This is a question I also got, Satish, very quickly. I just want to give a very 10-second example. I was talking to an organization which is in the media industry, based out of UAE and a few other countries. I was perturbed because the gentleman on the other side of the table, with all my love and respect to him, asked me that, can we achieve this in 6 months in HR excellence? And to me, I said, yes, we can. But what does it mean to you? He said, I want to win that award of HR excellence, and that's the strategy. So I think sometimes we get hung up that HR excellence is about winning awards, but actually it's far more deeper. So what's your thought about it?
No, I think it's important that you raise the topic of excellence and HR excellence and awards. And I would give the classic example of the EFQM methodology, which actually talks about the radar. The radar, the R stands for results, A stands for approach, D stands for deployment, and A and R stands for assessment and review. So anything which is happening, if the economy is good, you're going to achieve results. But is it because of approaches that you have developed? Is it because of your excellence in deployment? So if you can bring in the causality, then it really helps. So now coming back to the question of whether there is a shortcut. In my opinion, there are no shortcuts, but there are accelerators. There are like leadership alignment, the trust, the capability within this organization. It cannot be built overnight. Like You can implement a transformation project, all the initiatives, but for this to get embedded within the DNA of the organization, it's going to get time. Performance management system can be implemented, but for it to actually embed itself in terms of a strong performance culture, you have to see the results for 2 to 3 years. So the radar mechanism, awards only people who have shown consistent results over 3 to 5 years, and they see the trends. And similarly, in my opinion, there is no shortcut to success here, but definitely you can accelerate it. An organization which might take several years, some may not achieve it, but if you put in the right inputs and enablers, you can make sure you can achieve it earlier than the others. And not only that, make sure it is sustainable in the long run. For example, I always want to state this example. I was working with one of the energy major. Initially, they were in the startup phase, and you know what happens in startup phase. Several projects, initiatives, kind of spring up everywhere, and there were a plethora of them. But then we realized that, in doing all of this, we actually are losing sight of the end goal, which is to complete the project. And one of the things that we realized is there's a transformation required from moving from a startup phase to getting ready to operate. And what it required was to determine what does success look like, and alignment of the leadership on what that success looked like. So once that was clear, I think the rest was easy. So instead of trying to achieve the best in class, as soon as you start to operate, it was about going step by step. When all the leaders were aligned, then we took the baby steps to get where we are.
Very nice. Love that example. Thank you for sharing it. I think visualization to the outcome is a very powerful technique for leaders and projects to come together on that. And in your experience, I believe for those who are joining in now, just very quickly, Satish is a guest today, Satish Viswanathan. He's a strategist, HR guy, I would say in simple words, but he's much more than that. He's been someone who started his career across multiple government organizations like ADNIC, Nuclear Energy Corporation in Dubai, in Abu Dhabi, and with other government entities, and EMAR. And he is a perfect mix of HR strategist and business strategist. We had an interesting conversation at Seintiv Talk. We often talk about controversial topics, which are simple as it seems to be, but as you unlit and uncover them, you start discovering there's so much was not being discussed in that area. Satish, one thing which I said when I was saying it, and that is a bit controversial, I hope some people will not be unhappy with me when I say this, but I have to say it, because if we don't be authentic, then what are we doing here? There's a lot of awards these days, Satish, which are being given out, almost as if, I remember when my kids were in middle school, to win a lemon race, they used to get an award. To win be the best class, they would get the award. They would get an award for, doing multiple things in a short span of few months. And so do all kids get. I think professionals are almost very recognition hungry. I do understand that, because probably the internal recognition systems of organizations are weak today. And I have to say that, unfortunately, that's the truth. And that's why these external recognitions are becoming very, very interesting and important for people. While some of them are worthy and they have a lot of depth and background to them, these awards which come there, but for in a lot of ways, they're becoming money-making business as well. And I get very worried about that, because when an award is given for money, it has always been there in the history of mankind. There's always some barter happening there. But more so, if it's not coming from a accredited, known source, but just someone wants to be their picture to be somewhere, that becomes a bit of an issue. And that also destroys credibility on people who are truly the scientists of business or HR or thinkers of business, versus those who might be, on being put for awards just because someone wants to make money out of them, unfortunately. And I talked to a lot of people during my coaching journey and my lecture tours with CEOs, CXOs, as business heads and CHROs and HR heads. And this is becoming a bit of an issue now, because while it's a feel-good thing. But on the reverse side of the same coin is that people who are trying to strive to HR excellence, it's a link to this topic, and business excellence, the bar for that sometimes gets lower now. So you don't know who to trust on the credibility. Controversial. I know, it's not an area which is talked about openly, but I thought I should bring this out. What's your view around it, Satish?
I would, what I would like to put up here is the fact that in my previous organization where I work, we never look for any awards, external awards. If they are bestowed upon us, then it's well and good. But we never sought to go and participate. The leadership was very clear, in terms of what the excellence meant for them. And the leadership was aligned on that. So when you're internally motivated, the drivers are there, then you don't go to seek external awards. But having said that, I wouldn't want to myself vouch or kind of endorse certain awards. But something like the EFQM, which was adopted by the government and private sector, they are really time tested. The Malcolm Baldrige, so they are really good. And in those, the awards are not given away as a freebie. You really have to earn it. And you cannot earn it in 1 year because they need to see your consistent performance and consistent improvement. As I mentioned to you about the radar methodology, you fix your results, your approach, your deployment to make sure that you have achieved the results because of your efforts and not because the economy has been good or not because the government has doled out to you freebies. So I think it's a question of each organization, which stage of the evolution they are. Maybe in the beginning startup years, maybe some awards might help, but those organizations which have been here and mature, I don't think awards really make a difference to them, unless or until it's going to drive something internal, and ultimately it all needs to be aligned to business outcome or business excellence.
Thank you for saying that, and I couldn't have said it better, so thanks, Satish. I'd request people to focus on excellence in the term of historical excellence, and not in the moment of now, which is today, the instant world of gratification, because that does erode credibility in a lot of ways from pure excellence on the business and HR side. Diving a little deeper now on a question we have here from the audience, we are getting some questions online and offline from the audience. So I'll pick one here, and then I'll go back to the previously collected questions. Please bear with me. How connected to or disconnected from is HR? When you speak about people, here it is, it sources to the business objectives and strategies. So Joel has asked this question. This comes from the understanding that the importance of having HR inside the room filled with the board members and other key decision makers. It's a very, very good question, Joel, that, how connected or disconnected from is HR when we speak of the people? It sources to the, basically caters to the business objective and strategy. What's your view about this, Satish? And that goes back to your earlier point that HR has to have a seat on the board table now. So
absolutely. I think thanks for this question, Joel. I think as I mentioned earlier, if you're going to treat HR as an admin function, which is there only to hire and fire people, I think you're not achieving the objectives. But if you're able to, show as a HR leader, you yourself have to, showcase how the initiatives that you're taking or the day-to-day operations that you're doing is actually helping business outcomes, as I mentioned earlier. I think then you'll get a seat at the table, and that's when you get connected. But if you go onto the BAU or the business as usual mode, then you're going to be disconnected. So it's like how should I say that? It's iterative. You do one and you go to the next. So first, make sure whatever HR does to identify how it aligns to business outcomes, number one. Number two, then put together a plan to make sure how you can bring it up to the leadership, to the board. And once you do that, I used to present to the NRC often, and I used to present on the HR transformation program. And if I were just talking to them plainly, simply about HR projects, how we are progressing, what's the percentage completion, I'm sure it would not have made any contact or resonance with them. So it was important for me to link each of those. As I mentioned earlier, succession planning is means to an end. What is that? That is business resilience. The rewards revamp is a means to an end. What's that end? To boost the revenue, to make sure your people are paid fair, competitive, so that you can attract talent. So that is the initiative that you're doing. And similarly, all technology projects that you do, you need to ultimately see what is the ROI on that. Because I don't see that HR projects are to be treated differently than any other business projects. So the moment you do that, that's a recipe for success.
Thanks for saying that, Satish, very well articulated. I'll just add quickly to wrap up Joel's question is also, just to wrap up the answer. Also, I think, Joel, one thing we discussed earlier on the show was, and thank you for asking this again, it's a great question, that the HR or the business people collaboratively need to be advisors to the organization. That's a perspective increasingly, which is very important on the table. Moment people take the job as a job, that this is my job, cut out from the jobs, the skill and the goals set for the year, that's about it. I think the advisory element shifts. We depend on external advisors. I love to be involved as advisor, that's not an issue from a business standpoint. But my point is, internal advisors need to be very, very powerful and strong. And that's where the role of the HR to be connected, to be able to be the advisory for the business, and therefore get the seat on the board is very, very natural to flow. And the way Satish said it, those examples would really help. So thank you so much for asking that. I have one more question here from the audience again. Pankaj, from Pankaj Sinha. He says, Satish, you spoke about HR as an enabler for business. Which are the most important levers for transforming HR to be a business enabler? And this comes from Pankaj. Pankaj is, again, an esteemed leader in the industry. I know him. He's been the ED for Schindler and also a strong HR leader. So, Pankaj, it's a great question coming from you. Satish, what do you feel about it? This is a sharp but a pretty clear question here.
I think the most important lever would be to first understand your business. So what are your business outcomes? The moment HR understands what are the business outcomes, what are the leaders trying to achieve, being a part of those strategy meetings or the business planning meetings is very important. I think that's an important lever. And then not only that, but also contribute in terms of initiatives, activities that would bolster that. So, for example, in one of my previous experience, the revenue, in the sales target was there was a gap, and there was a need to actually revamp the sales incentives. So in sales incentives, you have direct and indirect. Direct comes through when you directly sell. Indirect comes when you sell through an agent. So how do we incentivize the sales staff so that the contribution is optimized from both direct and indirect? And who can do this better? HR. So that's how we did that. And secondly, when there is a question of turnover, if the turnover is high, who comes in? What's the solution that you give to the board, to the leadership, is to how to look at rewards as a whole, looking at the fixed pay, where we stand vis-a-vis the market to attract the right talent. What are the short-term incentives that we can put together? What are the long-term incentives and what are the criteria for that? So I think these are all, I think there are many more I can talk about. I can talk about business continuity. That's very important, especially for the founders, for the leaders. They want to make sure their business is resilient, there is continuity, and one of the important thing is to make sure you have successors, not only for the C-suite, but also for critical roles. So succession planning is very important. Not only that, to ensure that the people who are identified as a part of your succession pool are ready to take up that next role. So you can go on and on and on about what all HR can do to actually enable business. And thank you so much for asking that, Pankaj, because It really gives me the leeway to actually explain what are those things that I have done in my past to enable business. And even on technology side, a lot can be done. For example, in one of the areas I implemented the HR bot. A lot of routine activities were getting routed through emails, through other means, and it was using up a lot of time of the HR staff. The bot was used as the primary interface where a lot of these queries were answered. It reduced the load so that we could focus more on the strategic aspect of enabling business. So I can go on and on, but I think I've touched upon a few of the examples that I have encountered in my career.
Thanks, Satish. And so I think, Pankaj, once again, thank you for asking that. I think the 6 critical levers which Satish said, and I'll probably add one more, is deep business understanding clearly is a must for every HR person. Having a great understanding of workforce strategy and not workforce administration. There's a difference between the two, obviously. Third would be clearly the factor of technology as a lever, very key. Capability of people, being able to define that in the terms of value units, which I popularly say these days. And then, of course, one important thing which I believe is critical and key is the ability, which Satish also touched upon, is the ability to be able to read the analytics of the business, where it is going, predictive analytics, and being able to provide that. To me, those are the few critical levers which probably make sense. So thanks again, Pankaj, for asking that. That's a great question. Satish, I have an interesting thing to ask you. You have obviously had a very good career. You and I are not very old. We're still very, very young people here. What is that one advice you'd like to give to someone who wants to be a HR strategist, not a HR BP? Is there a difference between the two? Or a business strategist with the HR sense? What would be your advice to such a person?
That's a really tricky question, Ashutosh. I recently did a CHRO program from the Indian School of Business. So one of the things the dean, the lead prof there mentioned, gone are the days where you talk about yourself, when you introduce yourself as a HR head or a HR, BP or a HR administrator. The best way to introduce yourself and actually imbibe that as a part of your day-to-day existence is to be a business leader with HR expertise. So be it an HR BP, be it a CHRO, be it a HR head, director, VP, whatnot, you are at the end of the day a business leader with the HR expertise or acumen that is required. Because if you're not going to enable business, and rightfully we chosen the topic for today's talk, which is business excellence and HR excellence. So I think it dovetails back to that. To me, HRBP, very good, very important, strategic. But at the end of the day, you portray yourself and live that portrayal in terms of being a business leader with the HR expertise that you have. I hope I have answered your question.
You did. And I'm not going to paraphrase it, but you said it very beautifully. And I hope people who are younger somewhere looking to aspire to be that, can take that up. I'm going to move to a very popular but a tough and a complex question, which most transformation leaders, transformation gurus, business or HR, doesn't matter, face. And that question is a tough one, in many ways, because that's where a lot of transformation gets stifled, or choked beyond to reach success, or half-cooked transformations which don't reach the end. That's one of the biggest banes of many organizations, whether it's external transformation consultants like us, or internal transformation leaders inside, or when I was inside, I've seen that as well in multiple places. A great strategist comes and gives you the transformation book. The homework happens, everything happens, and just goes halfway through. Now, one can divide it in two parts. There's will, of course, involved, of the promoters, the business, the board, the numerous other functionaries are part of the game. But there's one thing called the budget, the famous called the budget. And one thing this gentleman asked is, with limited budgets, how should leaders decide, especially nowadays, between investing in AI automation versus investing in people capability? Is there a balance between the two? When they have a fixed budget, they have to submit every same time of the year, and they drive it and say that, okay, you can't grow this, you can't do this. What's the right way to live within that limited budget? It's a interesting question. And before you answer that, Satish, we have a lot of questions coming in offline, online channel both. Thank you so much for asking those questions. We'll try to pick every question possible. And at the same time, if you're enjoying this conversation, do punch in what you're liking about it. It'll be great to hear from you. One adjective, one keyword which makes sense for you here today. I hope that's the spirit of Seintiv Talk. We will touch on some controversial topics once in a while and hit back in a way which is professional, but at the same time, more importantly, come up with a response which hopefully makes sense and triggers a thought. So back to you, Satish, on that question.
Thanks for giving me some time to actually think about it with the other part that you addressed. So if I understood your question correctly, let me paraphrase. So you have a limited budget. There are AI initiatives to be implemented, and then there are people-related initiatives to be implemented. And how do you, prioritize or optimize? Did I understand the question correctly?
Yes, absolutely, bang on.
Okay, so if that be the case, I think we need to reframe this question a bit. We shouldn't put this as AI versus people, simply because at the end of the day, anything to do with AI is about adoption. And who are the people who are going to adopt it? It's the people. And if people need to adopt AI, then their capability has to improve. So the way I look at it, if you want to take a pragmatic approach to it, if you want to really kind of implement AI at a large scale, start small, start looking at all your processes, look at those processes which are low judgment, repeatable, with limited, intervention, automate them first, and then based on the quick wins that you get, redeploy that into actually building the capability of the people, in terms of adopting the technology, adopting AI, building their reskilling themselves. So then you can focus on that. So the question itself is, not AI versus people. The moment you put that as AI versus people, it's bound to fail. Rather, take it step by step. First, build the capability, implement, get some budget on it, then let the people get used to it, and then adopt them. There are several such examples. Levers did a great job on that. There was one other case study I remember, that in a law firm, when they implemented AI, there were two sets of people. So one was made to feel that this is going to take away their job, and the other were made to realize that this is going to give them an opportunity to reskill themselves, be a part of the solution rather than the problem. So it's all about framing and how you implement it. It's more about change management than actual technology issue. And the budget needs to be utilized judicially to make it a success.
Thanks, Satish. Very sharp and quick response on that. I completely agree with you. And I think reframing the problem there is exactly the thing here, even for people when they get faced by that, to reprioritize where they need to go with that. We have one more question from the audience. Some great questions coming in. We are 38 minutes into the show. I'll try to see how we can cover another 10 minutes, 10 to 12 minutes, some very quick questions. So I'll move a little faster, Satish. There's a question from Itisha. She said, Satish, and I was looking at her LinkedIn profiles. Itisha is a financial controller, financial transformation leader, and someone who comes from a very sharp head of finance, financial control, transformation background herself. Satish, you spoke about outcomes being linked to EBITDA. What are other ways to measure outcomes to achieve HR excellence? Great question, Itisha. So, Satish, what would be your response to that?
Yeah, just a couple of examples. I think we just did touch upon it before. So workforce planning. So if you're doing workforce planning, then you need to look at outcomes that you're trying to achieve. So one of the outcome would be productivity improvement. That is, for example, you benchmark your processes against the best in class and see where you stand. How many people do you use to execute that process for a similar scale versus what is used in the market? So improve upon that. So that could be an outcome that you can achieve. Another outcome could be the resilience, the business resilience, which we spoke about. When you do succession planning, it's not just a tick in the box exercise. You're actually making sure that the business is resilient if one of the C-suite leaves. You have people ready to take over that role. That's an important part. When it comes to rewards, it's about retention. What's your turnover? What are the outcomes that you're achieving? Because hiring and firing have a cost associated to that. So you can look at that. So several such outcomes are there. I think we can take up this, Itisha, this is a very good question. We can discuss a plethora of outcomes that we can look at depending on actually what the pain point of the organization is. So we shouldn't be taking initiatives because they are like good to portray or good to look at. They have the X factor, but really what the organization needs. So typically, I'm sure you'll vouch for this, Ashutosh, one needs to do a thorough diagnostic. Once you do the diagnostic, the clear gaps will evolve or come out in terms of what the organization lacks. And then you link your people initiatives to bridge those gaps. Then automatically the outcomes are there. So I don't need to come up with a separate set, but it will automatically come from the business and tailored to the business that you are in. I hope I answered the question.
You did. And Itisha, great question again. Hope we answered that question. Moving a little fast. Also, on the Seintiv.com website, there's a tab on talent diagnosis one can take. It gives a very good overlook where is an organization and what are the levers which can be clicked to achieve the business outcomes and improve the EBITDA in that sense. So thank you for asking the question. There's another question, Satish. Sorry, I'm moving a little fast now. What holds HR back from being fully connected to business strategy? We did touch upon it. And when it has a seat on the table, and which levers matter most to change that. So this, again, a very senior HR and TA professional, Kaveri, she's asked an amazing question here. What holds HR back from being fully connected to business strategy, and even when it has a seat on the table?
Oh, thank you so much for that question, Kaveri. I think we are all guilty as HR professionals of taking that back seat. I think it's the complacency that is there. There'll be pushbacks. It's not easy as you identify the levers and then go and implement initiatives, and then it will get lauded or applauded by the leadership. I think there'll be a lot of pushback. You need to make sure that you hit the nail when the iron is hot, so that it goes in. So it is not just one conversation, but continuous conversation, conditioning of the leadership to understand the importance of HR. And if you get if you give up, it's not going to help. You need to continuously keep at it, number one. And the levers, as I mentioned to you, there are so many levers, and no more than HR, no other function has those kind of levers which can make the biggest impact. Right from hiring to talent development, to retention, to performance, to rewards, and also technology. In each of these areas, I think there are levers which can be used to make sure HR gets a seat on the table and makes a big dent, or not dent, I would say, makes a big impact on the business outcomes.
Thanks, Satish, for answering. A very great question again. Thank you so much for bringing that up. We are just 5 minutes away from wrap up, Satish. There are 3 more questions. I'm going to pick up just one right now. And my request to the audience is, please, if you're looking at more responses or connecting with us, do write to CAS below. It's on the screen, cas@seintiv.com. We'll be happy to address your questions one-to-one as well, or connect with you one-to-one as well. But great question. So this question is a interesting one. That's why I'm picking it up, because it's what a lot of business leaders and HR leaders both face to trying to crack it. In today's market, how to retain high performers beyond compensation, what actually works and what does not. So beyond compensation, how to retain high performers, because
Um,
costs right now, the costs are an issue. That's where she's coming from, this person.
No, I think it totally makes sense. The point here is we all grapple as HR leaders with this question: how do we retain talent, top talent, high performers? Good package or good rewards package, total rewards, I mean fixed, STIP, etc., are hygiene factors. No single person will remain in an organization just because you reward them handsomely. The moment the next organization pays you 10%, 15% extra, you're gone. So the best way to retain is to create that culture within the organization where performance is rewarded. I mean, really rewarded. You have visibility in terms of where you're going. For example, you're progressing in your career ladder is clear to them. Some of the initiatives that we took in my previous organization was an inventive way of implementing a mentorship program. The mentorship program was not the typical HR program where you have a senior leader and you have 4 or 5 juniors who have just joined come and pour out their sorrow in terms of HR issues. I didn't get access to this, I didn't get that, my leave, this, that. Instead of that, we actually developed a program of 10 electives. From among that 3 could be chosen by each of these people, and the mentors were there to take them through that journey. By this, it improved their capability. It also prepared them for long-term success. Number 2, we also implemented international placements. So we had businesses across the globe to make sure that these people are identified and catch them young and place them in these international assignments for them to grow. So if you have a career path, if you have growth, if the leadership's trust is there, your visibility with the leadership, all this makes a powerful, potent combination for you to retain talent. It's important. Rewards are important. Compensation is important to be competitive. But to retain talent, this is not enough.
Superb. And reward has never been enough to retain talent. That's the bottom line. My personal view, and I've been a proponent of this. Democratic rewards never helps, because you're just trying to do a few percentages for everyone. I think it should be heavily driven by performance, because when you do that, you set an example for others to follow and others to go after that. Yes, of course, there should be cola index connections and things like that. But coming back from beyond rewards, the important thing here is also the factor which Satish said, that it is a 8 to 9 unit framework, which actually helps to enhance retention in organization in today's era. And a few of them which Satish already touched on, and it's a deeper conversation, but very importantly, if those are put in place along with the rewards, it look like, and people, high performers will retain. Well, you will lose some always, but one of them, which I believe is very, very key and important, especially with mid-level high performers, and sometimes seniors as well, is visibility. I believe that performers look for some visibility to the client, to the front end. And if they're so good, if they're high potential, high post for you, why not give them that visibility to the leaders, the clients? Sometimes that totally converts them. That makes them loyal to the organization. They enjoy their work more, and they actually hear the bigger picture from the horse's mouth or the client's mouth, for that matter. But so the point is, they have to have the ability to be there, not as behind the crew workers always, but also be able to be in step in partnership with people who are running the business. With that, Satish, I think we'll have to call it a close. This conversation has just started, I thought, but it's already way over 40 minutes. So thank you so much for your time. I truly enjoyed the conversation with you today. Also, I hope I've been able to do justice to some of the questions that came from audience. Satish and I tried our best to respond to them with our limited knowledge. We're definitely not the biggest experts on earth on this, but we do have the right experience from the past, where we can attempt to give you a trigger of thought, which should probably take you in the direction of thinking a bit in ways that probably are not thought yet or could add to the thinking you already have. So thank you so much for asking those questions. In all humility, we like to close the show here. Look forward to your interactions and continued questions all the time. And Seintiv Talk will be back again in a few weeks with a new guest. Till then, have a lovely day and a lovely, successful weekend for yourself. Take some time out. Thank you so much. Satish, once again, big thanks for joining the show. Many
Thank
thanks.
you, Ashutosh, for having me in the show, and thank you all. We both remain available in case you need any further consultation. Thank you so much. Have a wonderful weekend.
Thank you so much. Thank you, everyone. Thanks. Bye-bye.